Let's say that I'm at a restaurant. I order a bottle of wine. They bring me over the bottle. I've asked them about the wine, so I think I know what I'm getting. I smell the cork, which I didn't know what I was doing when I did that, but now I do. Now I'm the one that's going to taste it, and I taste it, and I think it's really awful. But have I bought it?
You should not buy a wine that you don't like. That is my rule of thumb, and I would hope that people who are in the industry, who work at restaurants, wine bars, sommeliers, follow that practice as well. The customer is right. Now, there's nothing wrong with sort of explaining to the customer how the wine, should taste to them, and in some, very nice restaurants, the sommelier may even take a taste of the wine to make sure that the wine is okay. It hasn't gone bad. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a faulty bottle. So if you don't like it, you shouldn't pay for it. And there's absolutely nothing wrong. And I know it's hard for people to do this, but you're paying good money. You work hard for your money. You want to have a nice meal with a great glass of wine. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I just really don't care for this. Is there something else I can try? Now, if you do that 3 times, they're probably going to ask you, maybe you should not have any wine. But, it's not to get free wine out of anybody, but certainly don't sit there and suffer through a meal if you just don't like it. And it's up to the sommelier, it's up to the person who owns that place, the wine bar or the store, to make sure that you're happy and you keep coming back. So, I tell people, don't feel bad about that. If you don't like it, you don't like it. And what's great is you've learned from that. So make note of it. What didn't you like about it? Try something different next time. So there's nothing wrong with that, and people shouldn't get too, I can't say anything, it would be rude or improper. You're paying good money for that.
Is it okay to ask for taste? More than one. So let's say that I see 3, maybe 4 on the wine list that I think sound interesting,
Mm-hmm.
but before I purchase it, I want to know if it actually tastes okay.
Right. I think it's okay to ask. Absolutely. I mean, that's a potential sale of a bottle of wine for them. Some people may frown on it just depending on how they run the restaurant, how they run their business, but I think it's absolutely fine for anybody to ask, especially if, you're going to be a patron of theirs. So,
Heidi, I have a few more questions for you. What is the biggest misconception that people have about wine?
There's a lot of them. I know we uncovered some of them today. Well, I think that price is a big factor. I think
Okay.
a lot of people think they need to spend a lot of money on a bottle of wine, and I think you just need to keep an open mind and not be afraid to try the wines that are lower on the price range. A little tip in case people don't know this when they're going to their grocery store or even their wine shop. If you look at how the shelves are sort of stacked in the wine department, you'll notice that the lower priced wines are at the bottom, and they kind of gradually go up in price as your eyes go up to the higher shelves. So when you're in the supermarket shopping, depending on, you can tell where my budget is at every time I go to the grocery store, because my eyes will either be, straight ahead looking at the middle shelves, or maybe at the top if it's a special occasion, and maybe lower on the list if maybe it's just an inexpensive wine that I'm looking for. So just kind of keep that in mind. And a lot of the grocery stores are just fantastic these days. They've got a great selection. So I think price is one misconception. I think that, some people say that they may only like a certain type of wine, and to that, I think that it's important for people to keep an open mind and try something. Even with food, some people who don't like red wines can be blown away with the right red wine and the right meal. Food changes wine dramatically. They're meant to go together. Wine is almost like a spice for food. And so I think the misconception is to think that, well, I'm only going to drink wines. I'm only going to drink reds. I mean, I went for years not liking Chardonnay, and I tried it again a couple of years ago and realized that the style of the wine had changed. The California Chardonnay has gone from the more oaky, buttery, and some people really like that. And now they're offering more, lighter, fruitier styles of Chardonnay. So your palate changes. Another misconception is you change. Your taste buds change. It changes with your age. It changes with just you as a person. So as your tastes evolve over time, your palate evolves over time as well. So something you may have liked back in your 20s or 30s, you may not stand in your 50s or 60s, and you like wines that are completely different. So keep going, keep trying things as you get older, as you try different wines, try it with food. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. I could probably fill a whole show, but I think those are some of the top ones.
I remember us talking prior to the show that you happen to know a little bit about the history of Pasadena and some of the wine history with Pasadena. Do you mind sharing that with us
Absolutely.
tonight?
You know, California is an agricultural state, and if you look back at sort of our history, this entire state, there's orange groves, there's nut trees, you know, almonds, avocados, and certainly grapes. And everybody thinks of Napa and Sonoma, Northern California, as being the hub for the grapevines. But even in the San Gabriel Valley and this whole area throughout Pasadena back in the 1880s, it really hit a stride in hundreds of vineyards in the area.
Really?
Yes. And in fact, there was one company called the San Gabriel Valley Winery, I believe, that had as much as, I think, 230 tons of grapes that it would crush per year, millions of gallons of wine. And it had a really good run, and it was very popular all throughout this area, vineyards, and in fact, in certain parts of Pasadena, you can see that there are streets that are named within the wine, you know, realm, with Delvina, Vineyard Street. You know, you'll see little clues. But unfortunately, in the late 1880s, it was a pretty short run. About 20, 30 years, the vineyards were operable and the wineries were thriving. In the 1880s, something called Pierce's disease hit in the later part of that year. And it basically wiped out all of the vineyards. And it's a bacteria that was transmitted from insects. So as anybody knows with growing agricultural crops, if you have something like that, that's a natural sort of predator that's going to devastate that particular income. So unfortunately, the investors in the wineries and the vineyards decided to stop. They got too scared, it was too risky, so they decided to go the other direction and actually grow the orange groves, you know, a lot of the citrus trees around, and stopped the whole grapevine business. So there may be some subtle clues around that you'll see, but unfortunately, those days are gone. It was a nice little booming time for a few key winemakers in the area, but yeah, I mean, there's history here in Pasadena with wine and vineyards, and it's all throughout the state of California. So I encourage people to uncover those little mysteries because it's a part of our culture and heritage.
I think that's just fascinating. So unfortunately and sadly, those wineries are gone,
I know.
but Pasadena is filled with quite a few restaurants and bars that serve a large variety of wines.
Yes, and there's a couple of places that actually do a very good job of organizing their wine lists and structuring it so people can go in and taste the difference between a New World and an Old World or European wine. They really go the extra mile to make it easy for people who may not know that much about wine to try something and to learn. So that's really great to see happening out in Pasadena.
So for everyone listening to Our Town Pasadena, you're very lucky that you have a lot of choices here and such a rich history regarding wine. So before we sign off this evening, I just want to ask you one last question. If I want to become a wine expert, what do I need to do?
It all depends where you want to go. Certainly, I think that the more you learn about something you're passionate about, the better. That's what I do. I mean, you try to learn as much as you can and absorb it. The more you know something about the subject, then the more you're going to be able to appreciate it. So if you're throwing a dinner party and you want to know what wines to serve, then you're going to want to have that knowledge. And how do I pair wines with certain dishes? And what is the common factor there? I just don't want to wing it one night and surprise all my guests. They may never come back for dinner. So I think that going out and pursuing knowledge, whether that's learning on your own or signing up for a course, is fantastic. A lot of it is trial and error, but going out and seeking the knowledge from people who have put forward the energy to make it easy for other folks to learn is a great way to start.
And are there courses? I know that you're the program director of the Wine Experts, but are there courses out there for someone like me who is just looking for some new knowledge to go and kind of become a wine expert, but not so much that I'm going to necessarily go into the industry? Where would I go to look for these courses? Are they online? Do I go and take them physically? Or at the colleges? Where are they?
There's a wide range range, and it really depends on how much time you want to invest and what your budget is. You can certainly take online courses. You can go to the local wineries, and they have a lot of educational wine tasting dinners as well. Certain restaurants do that also. Or you can also sign up for one of the programs that are out there. I know some of the colleges are offering more wine education programs as well these days. But it depends on what your goals are. If you're going to get a job, you probably want to have a little more in-depth training and knowledge and certification perhaps. But if you're somebody who just wants to have that knowledge to be impressive to your friends or even feel good about yourself, having that confidence, there's a lot of options out there. So I just encourage people to look out there and see what's best, whether it's picking up a book or sort of trying on their own, just to go for it and see what suits their lifestyle.
So before we go, just let me ask you, what would be the one thing that you would like to leave us with, telling us more about wine, besides the fact that maybe we need to drink more, but just sharing a last little bit of knowledge about wine? Well,
I think that people seem to think of wine in terms of, well, it may get you a little tipsy, or maybe it's great to have at a meal, but there's so much more behind it. And wine is really a part of, when you learn about wine, it's a part of the culture, the history. If you study it, you're going to get a history lesson. You're going to get a lesson in geology based on the soils where the grapes are grown. You're going to learn more about weather patterns, and I think one of the most eye-opening things that I've experienced in talking to winemakers and traveling all over the world to different prestigious wine regions is the fact that there's so much of it that is based in just honest, hard work, good people, and it just opens your eyes to the whole environment. And I think it's really sort of a great combination of you get this fantastic thing from the earth and how critical it is for us to continue to protect it and find ways to leave it sustainable so future generations can appreciate it as well. That's been one of the most eye-opening things to me, is I never thought I'd be sort of a green going out there and feeling so strongly about these things, because you get caught up in your life and you forget about it. But the wine industry certainly brings you back to those basic factors that we live off of the earth, and we should protect it as much as possible.
Well, salute, l'chaim, is that what you said?
L'chaim, cheers, salute.
And you should always look into someone else's eyes,
Absolutely.
right, when you say that. All right, well, thank you so much, Heidi, for being with us this evening and sharing your knowledge with us. It's obvious that you have a passion for wine, and I really appreciate everything that you've shared with us this evening.
Thank you, Jan.